Welcome everyone, Costin here with the discussion about Festus the Leech Lord in Thrones of Decay patch 5.0. Plenty of people have asked me about this particular subject. Has anything changed for Festus? Yes, I mean Warriors of Chaos are still the same race. They're gonna get some new additions with Tamarkan, or Tamarkan, I imagine. But the important thing is, with the Nurgle rework, the way Plagues work has been significantly changed. And this does apply to Festus. So he's getting the exact same plague system that Nurgle does get. So these symptoms and blessed symptoms, they are, this is the new system. It is going to apply to Nurgle, to all Nurgle factions. It doesn't matter if we're talking about Festus or we're talking about the Nurgle factions. There's also an interesting change to the Skaven Plague as well. I mean, the effect is still the same one that we know. So what the Skaven Plague does, by the way, and one of the things I've said quite a lot of times in the past is that the Skaven Plague is, it's a joke that how Nurgle's plagues worked, because a Skaven Plague was honestly the most devastating freaking plague. Partly because it would spread a lot, and also partly because the effect was quite brutal. Like, even for the eye. So it would affect your attrition, it would affect your growth, and it would affect your income. Well, right now, with the Nurgle plagues, you can make plagues that are either just as powerful, if not more powerful, in some way. So you can, and it's the first effect you get, actually, you can get a plague that causes attrition. And with a blessed symptom, if you get this as a blessed symptom, it's going to be even more devastating. You can affect growth. You can affect income. It may not necessarily be the same level of income as the Skaven one, but you do have a lot more customization here. And you actually get more power here because you can reduce campaign movement range and all that. But furthermore, here's the thing. With the Skaven Plague, yes, it can spread like wildfire, but it's also going to blow up in your face and affect your own armies, which obviously doesn't apply to Nurgle ones, because Nurgle ones are going to affect you in a positive way. But quite crucially, I think, for Nurgle plagues, you can increase the chance of spreading up to 30%, so you can get 55. Even I've seen it go as far up like 75%. You can get plague cultists. I mean, obviously, Skaven Plague is spread throughout the cultist, throughout the hero, but you can reduce immunity duration, increase the total duration. So yeah, Nurgle plagues can actually be fairly nasty right now. Like, the effects are missile resistance, construction. Like, understand, some things the AI doesn't care about as much. Like, affecting the AI's growth may not necessarily be as big of a deal as you think. Affecting the AI in an attrition way, yeah, that does hurt the AI, even the AI. Thing is, though, and the Nurgle plague affects settlements, which is quite important, because it's not just like armies, it's also settlements. So, yeah, that's important. But here's some things that actually do, here's some things that I think that is genuinely going to affect the AI. Local or human capacity, because the AI gets cheats in that. Construction time, that's pretty significant. Movement range. Not income necessarily from a building. See, the AI doesn't so much cheat in terms of income as much as it cheats in terms of, like, upkeep and all that. But, like, increasing things like construction costs, increasing things like upkeep, actually increasing upkeep of units, pretty substantial benefit there. So, yeah, I can possibly say right now that with a Nurgle Plague, with the way things are right now, a Nurgle Plague can genuinely be better than a Skaven Plague. Not in every situation, but still. Now, let's talk a bit about Festus and how he does plague. So, he's using the same currency. So, he's doing plagues with infections. Now, it's interesting to think about it, because he actually may have cheaper plagues, so I think that might be because of a skill line. So if we look at this situation, it's like infections cost to create a plague in his province reduced by 25%. That's one of the benefits that he gets, and also 15% chance of spreading a plague. So he does have some plague benefits as well. Whether or not Nurgle or Festus are better at making plagues, that's a bit of a discussion, but he certainly does have a benefit with respect to making them. And honestly, Festus is quite a very, very dangerous foe to deal in battle. Like, I fought a battle as Karl Franz. He's pretty crazy. But you can certainly make plagues. Now, here's the thing: you use infections, right? So if so, these are cheaper, but otherwise you pay the same cost. And I'm pretty sure there's not any research that necessarily affect that Though, actually, you can increase plague duration. There's probably a couple of other things here that I may have missed. Okay, so you gain infections, but how do you gain infections? There's two principal ways, as opposed to 3 that Nurgle factions actually use. So the first one is you fight a battle and you get the post-battle option. You don't get any infections by default. You need a post-battle option. I think that caps out to 37. So any army you fight, you can get up to 37 infections through that. The second way, like, there's plenty of ways that's mentioned here. But like the second way that I've personally seen, and like, you know, just looking at the structures here, I don't think there's any particular way of gaining infections from a structure. So the second way you can get plagues is, as Festus, is through a commandment that fosters the cults. So this is going to give you 5 infections per turn. So right now I'm earning 20 infections because I have 4 provinces, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so I get 4 provinces, gonna get 5 soon enough. So that's one of the principal ways. Now you might think, oh, does that mean that you're gonna get fewer plagues than Nurgle? Yes and no. So let me go into some detail on that. While you'll gain less infections than Nurgle, because Nurgle has a structure that flat out gives you infections. While you gain less infections, you're also not having to spend infections on buildings, so Nurgle's entire unit recruitment is tied to that. You don't have the global recruitment as Nurgle, so that can be beneficial, but you do have a lot of customization to your units because, you know, you start with basic Marauders, you make those Nurgle Marauders with Grey Weapons, those are pretty decent, and then you make them Chaos Warriors and Chosen. Though, to be fair with Nurgle, like, if you get a bunch of structures you can globally recruit, especially you take a province from it, and get 100 Nurgle corruption, you can recruit the full stack at a pretty decent price. But here's the thing, because you're not having to split your economy between infections and money, you actually end up with more money, I think, from a Festus campaign point of view, and because you're not having to spend infections on either structures, which you need for all your military recruitment as Nurgle, nor do you need to spend it on research. I think there's a fair argument to be made that you could realistically end up with quite a few more infections in a Festus campaign than you would in a Nurgle campaign, so that means more plagues. You don't have some of the same benefits in other ways, research, all that, but yeah, you could potentially spread a lot of plagues as Festus. So the question then becomes, is it better to play Festus as Warriors of Chaos, who, beyond the fact that you get all of the units of Warriors of Chaos, and pretty sure you'll get all the DLC units as well, not quite certain about that, but you get all of the Nurgle units, or the vast majority of them. You certainly get all the Nurgle infantry, but you also are going to get all the undivided units. So you get artillery, quite crucially. You get Dragon Ogre Shaggoth. So the question is, what is better? What is going to deliver a better result, despite all the Nurgle rework? And that's, you know, a subject of some discussion. Like, on one hand, Warriors of Chaos have a lot of unit customization, can adapt to a lot of situations, have a much better economy, have vassals. Nurgle can vassalize factions, but only through diplomacy, and it's a bit annoying because you need to make barracks to make that really work, and barracks cost infections and also take 4 turns, whereas with Warriors of Chaos, you can just subjugate the faction, or the vast majority of factions, beyond also having diplomatic vassalization. So you may not take as many settlements, but you can just subjugate the faction and get a lot of power from that. So what is going to be better? Probably a bit of an interesting discussion. And of course, you got to consider Tamarkan when he comes out. And I can't really discuss Tamarkan. I know what his campaign is about, beyond just what Creative Assembly has shown, but I can't really talk about it. But I think it's going to be an interesting discussion point, like, you know, is Nurgle better than Festus, or is Festus better than Nurgle? That's just something I want to bring up. You might be able to create more plagues, you might be able to have more armies, you certainly have better climate, because you know what's annoying about Nurgle? Both Kuvgaf and Epidemius start in regions with a lot of mountains. Like, it's not just the fact that mountains are unpleasant, it's not just the fact that Nurgle has a astronomical construction cost, but that's also like, because you still do have huge construction costs, you just have a better economy from what I've seen so far. I mean, I've played quite a bit of Nurgle. But you don't have mountains, and yet the Nurgle campaigns, you look at all of them, we know where Tamarkan spawns, all of them, like, I'm not sure about his mountain situation, that's, you know, different discussion, But like Epidemius and Kugath, they can't take mountains because it's unpleasant. Well, you can, obviously, you can make it work, but let me tell you, playing campaign as Kugath, it was not fun dealing with that. So, just some things worth pointing on that subject. We'll see where everything lands, you know, as we get closer and closer into release, and I can speak a lot more freely about these kind of subjects. Still, like, yeah, this is Realms of Chaos. I just played this for the sake of demonstration purposes. I mean, it's nice to have a better plague system. It's also nice that you don't have to, like, let me be clear, this is a nice update for Festus, because the previous plague system was pretty annoying for him. Like, it was very annoying for Kugath, but it was also annoying for Festus. So, yeah, plague system is much nicer now. But before I end, there's something else I want to show. And that, of course, is the Skaven Plague. So over here, I have created the plague in Solent, and it's interesting to look at it. So the Skaven Plague itself has been updated. It has 4 effects, so maybe it is better ultimately than Nurgle Plagues. But you can take advantage of it in Nurgle campaigns. Pretty sure you couldn't before, but keep in mind my experience with Nurgle is limited. I mean, I played a decent amount of Festus. You don't really encounter Skaven that much in a Festus campaign, pretty damn rare. And Kugath, yeah, really horrible campaign before 5.0. But interesting thing about the Skaven Plague. All units suffer attrition, leadership is reduced, pretty sure it wasn't before, growth is reduced by 30, income from all buildings reduced by 50. But for Clan Pestilence, and I believe what Nurgle Plagues weren't working or something along those lines, but we now know what it does. Whereas before, I'm pretty sure we didn't know. So what we have here is like vigor loss reduction for plague monks, plague censors, bearers, plague priests, and plague claw catapults. Okay, might be very useful on the plague claws actually if they're firing for a very long time. Casualty replenishment rate, frenzy ability over here. Is that for all units? Leadership +8, 25 growth, very free construction cost, and 15% income from all buildings. Jeez, that's something. So is Clan Pestilence the best plague master? Always been, maybe. Just never took advantage of that. So, interesting thing to consider, really. Makes you want to play a Nurgle campaign and just control a Skaven faction to get this benefit, because holy cow. I mean, yeah, vigor loss reduction, sure, but, you know, 33% construction time? Holy cow, imagine Kugath. No, imagine Nurgle in general getting that, because construction time for Nurgle is pretty damn long. Might be the longest in the game. Though you can use, no, you can't use infection, sorry. You can reduce it, but still, by a third? CA, you're going places with this. I like it. Well, that's all I had to show. Costine signing out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and enable notifications. Stay tuned for more.